Hello learners, and welcome to today's lesson of rate, ratio and proportion. So today's lesson is going to be focusing on practice and application questions. Let's do some questions. The first question here is, a man on a bicycle is moving at a speed of 62 kilometers per hour for 93 kilometers. How long did this bicycle travel? Now, remember this diagram that we are going to use so that we can find our formulas to calculate. So the question is how long? How long refers to the time. So we are going to take our formula and we are going to say time is equals to, look at the diagram again. Do you know what the formula is? Yes, you are correct. It is equals to the distance divided by the speed. So what was the distance that we were given in our question? We were given the distance of 93 kilometers. So we are going to substitute there and say 93 divided by, what was the speed? That is our 62 kilometers per hour. So you are going to put that into your calculator and you are going to get the answer, which gives us an answer of 1.5 hours. Or we can even say that it is 1 hour and 30 minutes. Did you get the same answer? Great. Okay, let's move on to the next question here. So as still part of the question, let us write down the rate of this scenario. So we are going to now compare time and distance. If you remember what rate is when we are comparing different quantities. So we are going to compare time with distance. The time here that was calculated is 1.5 hours. And the distance that was used was the given 93 kilometers. But if we want to get it to find out but if we want to find out what is the rate for 1 hour, we can see there that it is 62 kilometers. So it means that our rate is 62 kilometers per hour, which is the speed that the question had given us. Okay. Now, let's describe the proportion between the speed and the distance. Now, the speed here was 62 kilometers per hour, and the distance was 93 kilometers per hour. Kilometers. What happens when the speed increases? So when our speed increases, what do you think will happen to the distance? Yes, you are correct. There will be a bigger distance or more distance that is covered. This means that the distance will also increase. Now, if the speed is increasing and the distance is increasing, do you remember what the proportion will be there? It means that speed and distance are directly proportional. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next question. And when we are dealing with these questions, every question, just think of what will be the rate, what will be the proportion, and in some cases, what will be the ratio. Let's move on to question number 2. We still have that diagram that is going to help us to find our formulas. So question number 2 says there, a truck traveling at 110 kilometers per hour reaches its destination after 3 hours. Let's look at the question that we are being asked here. How far did the truck travel? So how far indicates to us that they are looking for distance. The formula for distance. Look at the diagram. Do you remember what the formula will be? Yes, this will be speed multiplied by time. So what is the speed that is given to us here? We are given a speed of 110 kilometers per hour. We are going to multiply that with the time that was given to us, and that is the 3 hours. So 110 multiplied by 3 will give us 330. And because we are dealing with distance, the unit there is kilometers. So this truck has traveled 330 kilometers in this 3 hours. Let's move on to the next sub-question for this question. Write down the rate of this scenario. Now rate again, we are going to compare the two different quantities. Again, we are going to compare time with distance. The time here was 3 hours, and the distance that we calculated was 330 kilometers. If we want to find out what distance was covered in just 1 hour, that will be 110, that will be 110 kilometers. It means that our rate here is 110 kilometers per hour, which is the speed that was given to us. The next question wants us to describe the proportion between the speed and the time. So again, the speed and the time. So when our speed increases, what do you think will happen to our time? Think about it. If I am traveling faster, what will happen to the time of that trip? Yes, you are correct. The time will decrease, because if I am moving at a faster rate, that means I am covering a bigger distance at a lesser time. So as my speed increases, my time will decrease. Because the one is increasing and the other one is decreasing, this means that they will be indirectly proportional. So when we are talking about the proportion, that is an indirect proportion. Let's look at number 3. So Mamiki is visiting South Africa for a few days. She has $145 in her pocket. What is the value of her money in rands if at that time $1 is to 18 rands and 15 cents? So $1 is equivalent to 18 rands and 15 cents. Write down the rate of dollars to rands. Now remember what rate is. We are comparing quantities that are different. So we are comparing $1, and that is to 18 rands and 15 cents. So now Mamiki has $145 in her pocket. How are we going to get that value in rands? Remember, because we are working with a rate, we are not going to add to those values. We need to work with it using multiplication. So because she has $145, I am going to multiply the $1 by 145. And what I do on one side of my rate, I have to go and do exactly the same thing on the other side. So we are going to multiply this 18 rands and 15 cents also by 145. Yes, 145. So on this side, we have $1 multiplied by 145. That gives me $145. And on the right-hand side, when I multiply the 18 rands and 15 cents, I get an answer of 2,631 rands and 75 cents. So that means that $145 is equivalent to 2,631 and 31 rands and 75 cents. Let's look at the next question. It says there, Mpilo invests 12,000 in the bank at an interest rate of 8.2% per annum on simple interest. Now, do you remember what the formula is for simple interest? Let's see. So the question there says, how much will he have at the end of 4 years? Let's look at the formula quickly. A is equals to P, open bracket, 1 plus interest multiplied by N. Remember, our A is our future amount, Our P is our principal amount, our I is our interest rate, and N is the period of the investment. So we are going to substitute 12,000. Our interest was 8.2%, and we represent that as divide by 100 because it's a percentage. And we are going to multiply that by 4, and that 4 represents the number of years or the period of the investment. You can punch in all that information on your calculator as it is. And then what answer do you get? So on my calculator, I get an answer of 15,936 rands. Did you get the same answer? I really hope that you did. Now, lastly, let's write down the proportion between the final amount, that is the amount after interest is earned, and the number of years. So let's look at the final amount. That final amount has increased. Remember, our principal amount was 12,000, and now it has increased to 15,000. So our final amount, which is our A, has increased. What happened to the number of years? That final amount only increased because the number of years also increased. So the final amount is increasing, the number of years is increasing. That means that is a direct proportion. So this means that the final amount and the number of years are directly proportional. Okay, let's go to an ad break and then we'll see you just now.